Hey, I'm Rachel J, and this is Cultivator Kitchen. Today we are talking about my absolute favorite thing, gardening. Every single year I look forward to when I can start my annual garden, and of course right now, today while I'm filming this, it is mid-April and it is snowing outside. So it'll still be a while until I can plant. But in April, I love to gather all of my seeds and seed resources and make a big map of my garden and plan where I'm going to plant everything. So I'm going to share that process with you guys today. So hopefully you're also in the middle of garden planning, or maybe you're already able to plant where you are. And I hope this is going to help you out. The first thing you need to know with garden planning is what zone are you in? So you need to Google your zip code and then zone and find out what zone you're in. Where I live is pretty far north. I am north of Chicago. So my zone is 5B. In my zone and in my area where I live, our last frost date, meaning the last time the ground will freeze, is not till mid-May. So we have definitely had snow in May a few years ago. So I definitely can't put any plants in the ground yet, but I can get excited for planting. So I have about another month until I can really get my garden started. When you Google your zone, you will know when you can start planting and also what type of plants you can grow in your area. So because I'm in zone 5B, I'm not able to grow tropical fruits like bananas or citrus, but I am able to grow peaches and apples and raspberries and blueberries. So make sure to look up your zone and know what grows in your area. The second thing you want to do is decide what you're going to plant. So my method for deciding what to plant is I look at two things. One, what do I eat all the time and I'm always buying at the grocery store? And two, what are things I really love to eat but they're more expensive, are hard to find at the grocery store, and it would be cheaper or cool if I grew it myself. So I like to do a mix of really standard items that I eat all the time and maybe some heirloom or unique varieties that I really like to eat that I can't buy in the store. So that means I can grow types of tomatoes like heirloom tomatoes that are purple or striped, and things that would be, right now I think they're $9 a pound at the grocery store. So I'll be saving myself a ton of money by growing my own heirloom tomatoes. On the other hand, kale is not super expensive at the grocery store. I think it's probably around $2 to $2.50 a head. But I eat a ton of kale and it does taste way better fresh from my garden. So of course I'm gonna grow a lot of kale as well. So where do I get my plants and my seeds? The first thing is I have these awesome seed catalogs, and I'm showing you my two favorite ones today. And of course I will link below to their website. You don't need the catalog, but they send me this because I order from them every year. My absolute favorite place, if you only order seeds from one place, is Baker Creek, and their website is rareseeds.com. First of all, their catalog is beautiful. I mean, every year when I get it, I just look at it and I'm like, oh, it's gorgeous. And I like to flip through it sometimes when I'm getting nostalgic for summertime. In here, you're gonna find a lot of really unique varieties you probably have never seen at the store. And you can get striped watermelon radishes, you can get yellow cucumbers, all kinds of really cool stuff. Again, you wanna make sure anything that you pick out from here is going to grow in your zone, but pretty much you can go crazy with this, and the prices are reasonable. Of course, there's so many things in here that I get way too excited, and I do have to plan out what I'm going to plant and how much room I have, so keep that in mind when you're ordering. The other one that I have here that is really fun is the Kitazawa Seed Company. I love this. It's a Japanese company, and they have a lot of varieties you can't get anywhere else that I like to grow. And of course, right here on the cover is one of my favorite things. This is a bitter melon, and it grows kind of like a cucumber. Of course, as the name says, it's super bitter, but it is so delicious. But in here, they've got all kinds of really cool stuff like Mizuna and shiso and a bunch of different Asian varieties of vegetables that are really delicious. And you might not be able to buy these in the store where you are, and growing them is going to be really unique and flavorful. And this company is non-GMO. It's been around for over 100 years, and you can buy online from kitazawaseed.com. So those are my two favorite seed resources. I look forward to the Kitazawa and the Baker Creek seed catalog every year, and I do buy stuff online when I'm planning out my garden. But there's a lot of other things you can do as well. I have seen at my local co-op and also on meetup.com, a bunch of people are having seed swaps right now. So that means you can take whatever seeds you have. Maybe last year you had some leftover seed packets like arugula and lettuce, but you want more options. Check out if there's a seed swap near you. You can check on meetup.com or Facebook and just search your area and seed swap and see what there is, and you might be able to get some seeds for free. The other place that I look for seeds is at my local grocery store, and right now Whole Foods has 3 racks of organic seed packets to look through, so that's really cool. And of course, gardening centers like Home Depot, Lowe's, and local gardening places are going to have a lot of seeds right now too. So in addition to saving seeds myself from the previous year and ordering seeds online and maybe going to a seed swap to see what I can get, my other favorite method for getting great local seeds and plant starts is to go to your local farmer's market. I have a great relationship with one of our local organic farmers because every year I go to them, and in the beginning of May, when I can buy the plant starts from them, the stuff I couldn't start from seed myself, I get all of those plant starts from them, and they know I'm coming and they know I have a huge garden, and I'm able to get a head start on some of the fruits and vegetables that I would have trouble growing in this northern climate unless I had a greenhouse. So I get my tomato starts and cucumber starts from them, and that helps me to be ready for the season. Unfortunately, in my house, I do not have any windows that get direct sunlight where I could start seeds indoors, and I don't have a greenhouse, so it helps me out a lot to go to my farmer's market. The best thing too is that I know everything was started organically, and I know it was started in my climate, so it will be very happy when I plant it in my garden. So I highly recommend, if you haven't checked out your farmer's market, you can get awesome seeds and plant starts from them at the beginning of the season that they tended to over the past few months and grew in their greenhouses. And you generally get a pretty good price if you're gonna buy a lot of them. So that's what I do. All right, so we talked about my favorite seed resources. We talked about seed swaps and the farmers markets. And now I want to show you the third step, which is to map out where you're going to place everything so that you know you're buying the right stuff. So I'm going to show you a layout that my husband made me of my garden and show you how I map everything out. All right, so here is a layout of what my garden looks like. I have a bunch of 3x6 garden beds and one 3x3 garden bed. And that's because there's a little irregular shape to my annual raised bed garden. So the first thing I'm gonna do is write in the stuff that's not moving. So right here I have berry bushes. They come back every year, so those are gonna stay as is. So I'm gonna go ahead and write in there. Those are my blueberries. And this bed right here, that is my raspberries. So neither of those are moving. Those are gonna stay exactly the same. The other thing I have to consider is what's going to use the most vertical space. So I'm going to interplant with my tomatoes and my cucumbers so I can fit even more stuff in my garden. So the first thing I'm gonna do is this year I'm planning for 6 tomato plants, and I'm gonna grow those in my tomato cages, and they take up quite a lot of space. So I am going to put those right at the top of my garden. And these are gonna be tomatoes. So they're gonna grow to more than 6 feet, and they're also gonna take up at least half of those beds. So I'm going to leave them with a lot of room. My other most important one that's gonna take up a lot of vertical space is cucumbers. Last year I grew 6 types of cucumbers and they were phenomenal. We juiced cucumbers every day and absolutely loved it. So I'm gonna do that again this year, and I'm gonna use the back 6 beds. Sorry, the back 3 beds and the middle 3 beds for a total of 6. All right, so that is where I'm gonna put the stuff that's gonna take up the most vertical space. So I've got 6 cucumber plants and 6 tomato plants in there, and I've got my berry bushes. So you can already see that takes up a lot of space, so now I have to figure out how to fit everything else in. So definitely this year I wanna grow a lot of parsley and cilantro, and those grow really well with tomatoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and add those in. And you can see that I can fit about 3. I just know the size of how these grow, so I've grown them a few years in a row. So if you're not sure about how big something gets, maybe give it a little more room than you normally would, and you can always interplant something else as the season goes on. So I know I can fit 3 of each of those across, and then I also want to grow some broccoli and some cauliflower. So I'm going to do the same spacing. For my broccoli and for my cauliflower. So I just put cauli for those. Hopefully that makes sense. So now I've got these all laid out. I'm gonna move on to my middle row. Another thing that I eat a lot of is kale. So I'm gonna do similar setup with my kale. I'm gonna do 3 across. Those get quite big in my garden. I can even grow up to 6 foot on one kale plant. So I'm gonna plant just 6 of those. I like to do some curly kale and some dinosaur kale. We'll see how it goes this year. The next big one that I like to do a lot of is peppers. I like a mix of sweet peppers and spicy peppers. So I have some stands that peppers can grow in, and I'm gonna put 3 in a bed next to my cucumbers. Normally I grow a whole bed of potatoes, and then last year and the year before I grew a ton of squashes. I love squash, but I'm not really eating potatoes right now because I'm raw, and squash just takes up a ton of room. It will take up a whole bed and then start spreading down the aisles, which can be fine, but this year I just decided to try something new, so that's why it helps to map this out and decide where things are gonna fit. And I know that I have those little mini cages for peppers and the big tomato cages, and I know I have the stands for cucumbers, so that also helps me know what kind of spacing I need. Something new I've never grown before, but I eat a ton of now is celery. So I'm actually going to try growing celery for the first time, and I'm gonna give it its whole own bed. So that is gonna be my celery bed, and we're gonna see how that goes. I'll show you guys when it's ready. The next thing that is the most important to me is I always grow zucchini. Zucchini here grows so amazing in my garden. Only 2 zucchini plants will take up an entire bed, and it grows really quickly. So I have never actually grown 2 at once, because normally 1 zucchini plant will give me so many zucchinis all summer that we can't keep up with them. But I've been eating a ton of zucchini since I've been raw, a lot of zoodles and in other dishes. So I'm actually going to try 2 plants this year. And if we have too many, we always share with our neighbors. All right, so that's gonna be 2 zucchini plants in that bed. Next, I want to grow a lot of greens. Arugula grows like a weed in my yard, and it's also one of my absolute favorite things to eat. So I wanted to give a whole bed just to arugula, but I honestly am running out of space. So I'm gonna mix this one between lettuce and arugula, and if eventually the arugula takes over the lettuce, I'm gonna be fine with that. So this is gonna be lettuce rows, and this is all gonna be arugula. And last but not least, I'm also gonna grow some shiso, which is a Japanese herb. It is in the mint family, but it has a very unique taste, and it is literally my favorite herb to grow. So every year I have a whole section where I dedicate it to shiso. And then I often dry it and keep the remainder for the rest of the year to use dried. So I'm gonna put 3 shiso plants in this last bed here. So you can see how quickly this added up, and I have a pretty large garden compared to most people, I think. So I'm not growing carrots or daikon at this time. Those are better in fall anyway. But one thing I do want to tell you guys about is I will put radishes between most of these things, because the radishes will come up in 20 to 25 days while the rest of these are still small. And then I will keep, as I pick radishes, I plant more radishes, and I keep the radishes going all summer long and well into the fall. So if I want to show you guys what that would look like, is I would have some radishes probably down the middle of these beds so that I can go ahead and pick those as they come up. I'll probably do them between the broccoli and the cauliflower as well. So I'm gonna have at least 4 beds that have radishes interplanting throughout the entire season. And last but not least is we have this little raised bed, which is 3 by 3. Normally this is just my zucchini bed, but this year I'm doing 2 zucchinis. So in here, I think I'm going to do more greens because I like a lot more lettuce and arugula and maybe even some spinach, but I'm gonna definitely do some either microgreens or spinach in here. All right, so this is what my garden will look like this year for the most part. As I get ready to plant seeds and plant starts, things may shift based on how I think the spacing should look, but this really helps me know how much I can buy and how much I can fit and where everything's gonna go. And when you have a garden this size, you really do kind of want to map it out so you can make sure you're being productive. And if you're like me, you might tend to over order types of seeds that you can use and then not have the room for it. And I don't like to waste like that. So I'm gonna order just what I need to fit this in these beds. And as I mentioned, I have a whole nother side of my garden that's not annuals, it's perennials, and it's my permaculture side. And that's where my fruit trees are, and that's where all my herbs like lemon balm and mint and rosemary and tarragon and thyme and chives and all my strawberries, that comes up every year on its own. So this is just the stuff that I have to replant besides my berries. All of this I have to replant every year. So I'm super excited to get this started. It's gonna be awesome. Do you guys map out your garden like this? If so, leave a comment below and let me know what you find helpful. Obviously, this is just my method and it's not a super professional one, but it helps me get started every year. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing to prepare. So that is my process, and I will be counting down until I can finally get those seeds in the ground and start planting. And let me know in a comment below if you guys want to see how I prep my soil for the year, and if you want to see the first planting and how I get everything in my beds. And actually last year, we completely redid the garden. My husband and I designed a whole new garden and did it ourselves in 1 month. And I did a time lapse and a process video for the entire thing and showed you the final product with some drone footage. So if you haven't watched that yet, watch last year's garden transformation video. And of course, I'll be giving you an update on this year's garden soon. And let me know below in a comment if you want a tour of the other side of my garden, which is the permaculture side. And I don't have to plant every year because every year it comes back, and that's where all my fruit trees are. So let me know if you want to see that. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe below. Hit the bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post a new video. And right now I post twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. All right, see you next time.